Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. It's the end of week 3 of Arch Nemesis League, and I wanted to give an update as to the mapping strategy that I'm using at the moment. It's been changing a little bit, and here's something I'm just starting to settle into that I kind of quite like. So, this is an expedition-focused system, and we're going to try and fill up this entire section with all of the expedition logbooks we can get our hands on, and make a lot of currency through the various expedition reroll currencies that you get. You can either use these yourself, or alternately you can sell them in bulk to other players. So what the strategy is going to revolve around is picking maps that have a very, very quick path to the boss. Now, the S tier maps for this strategy are Mesa and City Square. Then there's a couple of A tier maps like Ashen Wood, like Cemetary, and then there's a bunch of maps that just don't work with it at all. Maps where you can't predict where the boss will be, or where the boss is at the end of an entire long pathway. So you want to pick the maps that are like City Square and that are like Mesa in order to do this strategy, or fall back on things like Ashen Wood that are pretty close to it. Our goal is going to be to kill the map boss as quickly as possible upon entering the map. We are going to be forcing an expedition on by the use of a Polished Expedition Scarab. You don't necessarily need to use Polished. I feel at the moment that they provide excellent value. You can use a Rusted Scarab for a cheaper option, or if you want to go a bit harder on the strategy, then you can certainly get value out of using a Gilded or Winged Scarab instead. The thing I like about Polished Scarabs is that you can generally buy them in big bulk, and that's a little bit harder with the higher tiers of Scarabs. You generally pay quite a large premium if you want to buy 20 of the same Winged Scarab, whereas you don't pay very much to buy 20 of the same polished one. So, once we're inside the map, we are going to beeline to the boss. The reason that beelining to the boss matters is that we are going Eater of Worlds Influence. Eater of Worlds Influence is because the Shadow of Hunger node is so good. Now, when you find an Eater of Worlds altar in an area, there are 3 possible things that it can give you. You'll be able to choose between 2 of these. So 2 options will be presented and 1 will not be available. Option 1 will be something that augments all of the Eldritch minions in the map. This is always available. Oh, this is not always available. This is usually available. Augments all of the Eldritch minions in the map, and also provides, so it makes them harder, and it also makes them provide more loot. Option 2 is something that augments the map boss, making it harder and providing more loot from the map boss. Now, if option 2 is not possible, you will always get options 1 and 3. Option 3 is something that debuffs the player and provides an increase in the amount of loot from every monster in the map. So what we're wanting to do is stack as many option 3s as we can, and the way that we ensure that we always get option 3 presented to us as a choice is by killing the map boss straight away, ideally before we spawn even the first Eldritch altar, but sometimes you can't avoid spawning 1 or 2 of them, but we want to keep that number to a minimum. So the Shadow of Hunger will mean that there's more Eldritch altars in the area, and then you will also get a lot more of the you'll get a lot more of these altars, and therefore you'll be able to build up more and more of these stacking debuffs on your player that also provide you with some sort of additional loot reward. Now, what you're really looking for here is increases to general quantity of loot in the map. These will then cause you to get more chances of getting logbooks when you kill runic monsters, which is what the strategy is fundamentally all about. We're going to do the expedition dead last, and there's a couple of expedition nodes that are absolutely essential in the tree. Buried Knowledge is the most important. Honestly, this is the only one that's essential. 50% increased quantity of logbooks is fantastic, and that's coming from runic monsters because that's where logbooks drop. But then also you get 20% increased runic monster markers. So all in all, Buried Knowledge alone is an 80% increase in the amount of logbooks that you're going to get. This is the most important nodes on the tree for this strategy. However, we're going to take some other good stuff as well. Ancient Writings gives you just more remnants. Remnants have a chance to have a suffix that causes a double dip on this 50% increase that you get from Buried Knowledge. So you can get another 50% increased quantity of expedition logbooks dropped by runic monsters in areas. These stack, so at that point, that's really good. This just means you're more likely to get that if you have Ancient Writings, so you definitely want to take this node if you can. And Distinguished Demolitionist grants you +1 explosive in areas. As well as that, it grants you 35% increased explosive radius. This is actually fantastic, and I would say that this is the second most important part of the puzzle to making this work. Lastly, I'm using a Polished Scarab. You don't need to use a Polished, you can use lower, but a Polished Expedition Scarab then grants you another 25% stacking increase the number of runic monster markers, which is great, and an additional explosive on top. So you're going to get 7 explosives, which I find is about the sweet spot where you can hit pretty much everything you want in pretty much whatever order you want. So that's the strategy. I'll clip in a little bit of gameplay here, but basically I've been pretty happy with this. The best maps are definitely Mesa and City Square, like I mentioned, and I personally prefer Mesa, though I've run out of Mesas at the moment, so I'm going to run a few other things on stream now in order to find more of them. That's all I got though. May your Valors have interesting results, and I will see you around.